This is Bump and Beyond with Yolandi Becker is brought to you with compliments of Dis-Chem Baby City.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And yes, you are on Bump and Beyond with me, Yolandi Becker. And as always, we are talking parenting. Parenting is not always easy. It's always a blessing. But as I always say, that it is a whole bunch of conflicting emotions at the same time, and your brain tries to logically figure out how it's going to be. I want to take you back now to when I actually was pregnant with my first child, Oscar, and this is 12 years ago, but I can still remember it's funny. I mean, it shows you actually how important these moments are, because you were so present in that moment that you can so clearly remember it. So pregnancy in its all is obviously a very big blessing. And then you go for your first checkup and you find out you're pregnant definitely and everything's fine and whatever. And then most of the time around 12 to 16 weeks, you go what they refer to as a fetal assessment, where you go to a little bit more of a scan that's happening during this time. And one of the things that they actually also test for is Down syndrome in your baby. This is an interesting emotional experience I felt during that time, because you always, obviously the question comes up and the discussion between you and your husband is like, what if? Because obviously these tests are not a given that it's 100% correct in the end of the day. And it brings up a discussion. And between me and my husband, there was discussions. And I do have to say also, I, again, with my second pregnancy, had the same fetal assessment. And again, the discussion came up, and it was different the second time around, I have to say, in different ways. But that brings me to my discussion today is actually, tomorrow we are observing World Down Syndrome Day. And obviously to talk about that, I bring in the experts, because I am not an expert, for sure, not in this field. This little snippet that I've shared was my assessment of this. And this is why I think it's so important that we have something like World Down Syndrome Day, so that we create global awareness about this, so that when you have those discussions with your husband during that time, that you are informed and know that you are making a decision based on the right information. So joining me today to create global awareness and to learn a little bit more about, hopefully a bit more about Down syndrome, is the chairperson of the Down syndrome. It's too early in the morning, apparently. The chairperson of the Down Syndrome Association, Linda Davis. Hello, Linda. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Morning, Yolandi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, no, it's like I said, I need to clearly learn more about this day and what it's all about. And so let's start with that. What is World Down Syndrome Day about?
Okay, so first I'll just tell you that our theme for this year for World Down Syndrome, which is actually tomorrow, which is the 21st, and you'll realize the 21st of the third month. So you'll realize as I speak why they decided on that date. So the theme is End the Stereotypes. So this is a focus on the right of those living with Down syndrome to live without judgment.
That's a beautiful theme for all, to be honest. Yeah, so it is really, it's funny that you mentioned it, because also in like preparation for the show today, I had a very nice, like little profound quote about that, because and about Down syndrome. And they said, like, the lives of many people with disabilities are restricted and diminished more by the negative attitudes and beliefs and prejudices of their neighbors and local community than by their own limitations.
Yes, that's 100%. Beautiful quote. You have to send it to us.
and I mean, for me, that was so profound. Just that whole thing of like, to think that you are limited not by your own thing, but by other people, how they perceive you. And I mean, that's so sad.
It's very sad, yeah. But it is getting better, but it's taking a very long time.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's why it's so important to also have these talks and talk about, because it's also not a nice, for me, it was a very stressful test to go through, and also a very not nice discussion to have. The reality of, if these tests come back and your chances of your baby having Down syndrome is high, do you terminate? Do you keep? I mean, I think for lots of religious people, there's not really the choice in some ways, if that's what your belief is, but there is a choice in the end of the day to be made. And I feel that we need to make these choices more informed, and to know that limitations, anyway, let's get to it. So let's also, to start off with, what is Down syndrome?
Okay, so Down syndrome is a genetic chromosome 21 disorder causing developmental and intellectual delays. So each cell in the body has 46 chromosomes, which is 23 pairs. So people with Down syndrome have an extra copy of chromosome 21. Now, there's your 21st of March and 3 chromosomes. That's not that delay. Okay, a medical term for having an extra chromosome is trisomy. So Down syndrome is also referred to as trisomy 21. And this extra copy changes how the baby's body and brain develops.
Okay. But you can also then, of course, like I mentioned, there is a test that they do at the fetal assessment where they look at the spine and I can't even remember. Maybe you can elaborate on that, exactly what that test is.
Okay, so that's the screening process. So the screening tests for Down syndrome cannot tell for certain whether your baby actually has Down syndrome. Rather, they can tell you whether there's a low or high chance that the baby has this condition. By comparison, a diagnostic test can tell for certain if the baby has Down syndrome. So screening tests only require a blood sample from the mother and possibly an ultrasound. So there's no increase in risk of losing the pregnancy. Diagnostic tests for Down syndrome, however, and other chromosome problems require putting a needle into the uterus or placenta and removing some fluid or tissue. There is a small increase in risk of losing the pregnancy. So an ultrasound can detect fluid at the back of a fetus's neck, which sometimes indicates Down syndrome. The ultrasound test is called measurement of nuchal translucency, and during the first trimester, this combined method results in more effective or comparable detection rates than methods using during the second trimester. So now what do you do if it's positive, if this test is positive?
Or your risk is high.
Yeah. So if the result is screen positive, you will be offered an ultrasound examination after 16 weeks of pregnancy and possibly amniocentesis, which is the sticking the needle into the placenta. And that's the possibility of losing your pregnancy. And the result is screen positive when the AFP level is equal to or higher than 2 times the normal level for your stage of pregnancy. So if your AFP level is lower, this may indicate that the fetus has a genetic disorder such as Down syndrome.
Okay. But again, it doesn't guarantee in the end.
No.
It just either increases or decreases your risk or the chance. And I mean, I don't like to use that word because it's also the chances of your child being.
Yes, I mean, we've heard of people that the doctors think their child has Down syndrome, and when they're born, there's nothing wrong with them.
I've also had that. More on that just now.
This is Bump and Beyond with Yolandi Becker is brought to you with compliments of Dis-Chem Baby City.
Yes, if you just joined me, you are on 101.9 High FM. This is Bump and Beyond, and I'm your host, Yolandi Becker. And as always, we're talking parenting. And today, specifically, because we are observing World Down Syndrome Day tomorrow, we are talking about Down syndrome. If you've ever been pregnant or planning a child, this is a reality that you have to think about. Luckily, I brought in the expert, and I'm speaking to chairperson of the Down Syndrome Association, Linda Davis. As always, though, I do want you to join in the conversation. So if you have any comments, experiences, maybe share your own thought process, experience when you went for a fetal assessment. What was the diagnosis? Even more so, if you have a child with Down syndrome, I would love to hear what your experiences has been like, and how you came to the decision making of everything, what your life is like. Please share with us. We would love to obviously know all those things. You can send us a telegram on 061-895-1019, or you can SMS us at 34519. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. So yes, Linda, as we were talking about what is Down syndrome, and then of course how it is tested when you're pregnant, and then obviously the risks is either higher or lower, or the chances are higher and lower of you. You're never 100%. And I also, you mentioned that you had someone that you know about that. I personally know of someone that had a very high risk, and it was, I'm going to lie if I say what it was, but it was an extremely high risk to have a Down syndrome, and they didn't. And that's always, I feel like, in the back of your head when you're thinking about these things. Also, am I that one person? Am I not that one person? But that's also the reality is that even when your child has Down syndrome, of course, it doesn't mean that this is the be all and end all of your life.
No, not at all. Not
yes. At all. I think that's the whole point of today's awareness.
Absolutely.
Is that there is different. Before we get to that as well, but now because we talked about the higher chances of you, is there certain things that can increase your risk of having a child with Down syndrome?
No, there's absolutely nothing. Down syndrome occurs in people of all races and economic levels. They say that the risk increases with age, the mother's age. But however, 80% of babies with Down syndrome are born to women under the age of 35 years these days. I know of women of 18, young girls of 18, 17 who are having babies with Down syndrome. So, yeah, that's a bit of a myth at the moment, I think.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Maybe as you get older, possibilities a little bit more, but mostly under 35 babies have been born. 80%, I mean, that's quite high.
Yeah. So how common is Down syndrome in children?
So one of the first, I haven't. It's not that common. It really,
I wanted to say it's like 1 in 500 or
1 in 700 at the moment.
Yes.
So
children who have Down syndrome. So it's the risks are pretty low.
It's 1 in 700 is quite high when you think about it.
Well, I guess.
So about 6,000 are born in the United States every year. So.
So once, let me say, do you know what the causes are for Down syndrome?
No, we don't. No one knows for sure why Down syndrome occurs or how many different factors play a role. So we don't know. We don't know what the cause is.
That's also interesting. After all these years that, that we still don't know why it happens and why it doesn't happen. And I mean, I also feel like that's a good thing to share with parents as well, is because I think sometimes and now also just you saying that it's not just older women who have children with Down syndrome, because I do think that as moms, in essence, we love to blame ourselves and feel guilty about certain things.
Yes.
And that you then think that, did I do something wrong that now my child has a disability? And in the end, it's just life.
Yeah, so Down syndrome just happens by chance and can't be prevented and isn't caused by anything a parent did or didn't do. So fortunately, the health problems can be managed well because all children with Down syndrome, or most children with Down syndrome, are born with some health problems. And especially when found early, and many resources are available to help children and their families.
Yeah. So, but I mean, now you're saying if it's found early, I mean, the only definite way is once your baby is born.
Yes.
That you're going to know if your baby has Down syndrome. Of course, we've now mentioned before that there is screening that can give you a bit of an idea, but in the end, you're only going to know 100% at birth if your baby. How would you then identify? I mean, of course, we know that there is a bit of facial recognition.
Yes.
Is that the only way? Is there other tests that they then do to confirm it?
They can do blood tests as well, but immediately you will notice, the caregivers will notice that they usually have sort of similar characteristics, such as eyes that are slant upward, a single crease across their palm, and a large gap between their first and second toes.
Oh.
But there's also a blood test that they will do, which is not always a quick test, unfortunately.
I mean, for me also, that is something that I've learned about Down syndrome, and to be honest, many disabilities. There is also different grades of the severity of Down syndrome. Is there different types of Down syndrome, or is it graded, or how does that work?
There's different types. So we have the trisomy 21, which we've been speaking about, which is about 95% of people with Down syndrome have trisomy 21. And each cell in the body has 3 separate copies of chromosome 21 instead of the usual 2 copies. So that's the most common. Then we have translocation Down syndrome. This is when an extra part or a whole extra chromosome 21 is present, but it is attached or translocated to a different chromosome, rather than being a separate chromosome 21.
Okay. Does it look differently? Does it have different consequences for the severity of it? What would make it then different?
Okay, so the translocation Down syndrome is about 3%. It's very low. So not many people have that. But I'll just tell you about the genetic and that.
Yes.
So mosaic Down syndrome, which means mixture or combination. So some of the cells have 3 copies of chromosome and other cells have 2 copies. So with this mosaic, you will find maybe you won't be able to pick up immediately looking at the person if they have Down syndrome, because not all their features will be the same as a person that has trisomy 21. So if we get onto the genetic side of it, so all 3 types of Down syndrome are genetic conditions relating to the genes, but only 1% of all cases of Down syndrome have a hereditary component. And that means passed from parent to child through the genes. Hereditary is not a factor in trisomy 21. However, the Robertsonian translocation, that's one we were talking about, is rare and accounts for 3% of Down syndrome. This is the only one that is hereditary, in that one of the parents has a translocated gene.
Okay, but I mean, it's still if only 3%.
3% is, it's not many.
Not many.
But personally, I haven't come across a person that has translocation.
So, but what is then some of the challenges that parents, before I get to that, is if you've just joined me, you are on Bump and Beyond. This is High FM 101.9 High FM. I'm your host, Yolandi Becker, and today we are talking about Down syndrome and, of course, learning a little bit more about Down syndrome. Because tomorrow we are, maybe celebration is the right word, but we are celebrating
their life.
The life. And of course, creating awareness for Down syndrome. And I'm speaking to the chairperson of the Down Syndrome Association, Linda Davis, specifically to be a little bit more informed about Down syndrome, because as we've just realized as well, can't really prevent it. There's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just, that's how it works. And more often than not, you only 100% find, all often than not, all the time, 100% only find out once your baby is born that your baby has Down syndrome. So what is some of the challenges parents will face if their child has Down syndrome?
Okay, so obviously they're slower because of
With development
it's
or in
development,
general?
speech, development, all that. So what we suggest parents do once they find out is just to accept your child, and you mustn't blame yourself or your partner. So get in touch with one of our associations who will walk with you through your journey and ensure that your baby has early intervention, physio, speech, occupational therapy, and never allow people to call your child as a Downs kid. Use their names, they are people first.
Yes.
So some of the things we advise parents is to discipline your child at all times with the same expectations as for any child. Teach your child how to behave and interact with others in a socially acceptable way. Teach your child how to react and respond appropriately to the environment, example, greeting, asking for help. Teach your child to take turns, share and give and take. Teach your child to work independently and cooperatively. Teach your child self-help and practical skills. And raise awareness regarding Down syndrome in your community with your church, school and shopping malls. Talk to people about your child. Do not be too sensitive about rejection and negative attitudes. Educate those that are around your child of his or her disability. So children with Down syndrome have the ability to lift you up even if you don't have any hope. Their warmth and gentle aura makes you instantly feel good. So,
I mean, that's definitely the case of any Down syndrome person that I've met, is that they're always loving and open and happy to also engage with people. And I mean, but again, back to the point now of that there's different types of Down syndrome, but with the needs, I assume now, the needs of every child, just like with every other child, obviously their development is different, their needs are different and what they are. I assume this is the same with children with Down syndrome, is that some might need more physio, some might need more this, some might need more this. Is that the case, or is it that you will need help with everything?
You will need help.
Yeah.
You will need help, even if they've got mosaic, which is they're not as severe as trisomy 21. But you will need assistance, and early intervention is the best way to do it, because some of them have heart defects, they have eye problems. So, they need, it just depends what each child has. And, even if you're healthy, they enjoy a long, happy and healthy life.
And that was my question now, is the life expectancy for people with Down syndrome lower?
No, it's getting higher because we have so much medical knowledge these days about it, and we can treat them. And so the average life expectancy of these days is 60 years.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so they are so there are common issues and some serious medical conditions. Yeah. But we have all the treatment.
Another question, and I mean, for me, I always say that we raise children to be adults.
Yes.
Does it mean that, I mean, now we're talking here, a Down syndrome person is going to be 60 years old, and obviously as a parent, you're not necessarily going to be there the entire time.
Yes.
Is this where associations like yourselves come in to help? I mean, do Down syndrome people become independent people, or will they always depend on other people?
No, they can become independent with assistance.
Yes.
We've got a young girl that lives in, I think in Pretoria, that she's living in a flat, but she does have somebody that comes in on a regular basis to assist her. Yes. But we've got another young girl, Cherie Brainard, who is a teacher assistant.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, so she's, she does motivational speaking. She's actually overseas at the moment doing motivational speaking, etc. So,
it just shows you there's this silly stereotypes we so quickly can put into play.
Yes.
And like my quote said, we are putting the limitations on people I mean, I guess we do that. We're also with people who not Down syndrome. So I think when it comes to something that is different to us, it is even more so that we do and put these limitations on people. That's wonderful. But because I do feel that as a parent, that is the type of thing that would worry me is that I would be willing to be there for my child. And as long as for sure, I know that. But my worry would then be if I'm no longer there, I can't do it anymore. If there will be help or if they will be fine without me.
Well, the thing is also to get involved with association from when your child's very young. Don't wait until they're older and then you're looking for a place for them or whatever. Yes. So we can help you. We can help you right through. So we always say from cradle to grave. We are there.
And that's not my next question, because you were also saying that you need a lot of help. A lot of help costs money.
Yes. So
and obviously there's no socioeconomic level here where it chooses. Is that also something that your association helps with?
Funding for parents?
Yes, and to help with.
Well, we have to do funding for our organization to just keep going, really, because, obviously everything that we offer costs money and we have to employ people as well.
Yes.
So we do a lot of fundraising and, assisting families might not always we might not always be able to do that, but we can assist with where to go and information and just support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but that is, I like that in the end. But is there places where parents, if you now find out your baby has Down syndrome, is most hospitals equipped to help, to guide them where to go, who to talk to, and what to do? Because that sounds like a very scary situation to be in.
It is
a helpless situation.
It is. It's very scary. And we are very involved. And I'm talking about East London because I'm in East London. So we also work here and we work very closely with our hospitals. We've got somebody that visits there on a regular basis, and I'm sure most of the associations do as well. Yes. And so we tell them that they have to let us know when a mother has a child with Down syndrome, or they come in for other treatment, heart treatments or something like that, and we didn't catch them when they were born with Down syndrome. So
more on this just now.
This is Bump and Beyond with Yolandi Becker is brought to you with compliments of Dis-Chem Baby City.
You can leave then if you want. If you've just joined me, you are on 101.9 High FM. I am your host, Yolandi Becker, and as always, we're talking parenting. And as we are observing and celebrating Down syndrome people all over the world tomorrow, we are creating some awareness. And I've just been telling Linda, who's my guest today, that I've learned quite a lot. And to be honest, this conversation has given me a lot of hope and beauty in it, because when I went for that fetal screening, and I'm not saying that it's going to be less stressful for you, but in the end of the day, I feel a lot more positive about the outcome and the support that is available as well. And the life expectancy of Down syndrome people all over the world, I think it's beautiful. And it's wonderful that there are organizations like you to help people once you find out that you do have a Down syndrome child. Before you go though, Linda, please let us know where where people can reach you and get some assistance and help if they need.
Okay, so if you go to our Facebook page, which is Down Syndrome South Africa, you'll get all the information you need there. So it's got all the address, everything like that. So, and then they can then put you in touch if you're not in Joburg or Pretoria. They can put you in touch with other organizations which are all around South Africa, and then they can assist you.
Okay. No, and it's been really wonderful. If please, Even if you're just curious and you want to learn a bit more, I feel it's a really great Facebook page to go check out, as well as their website. And one of the things that was so beautiful is that they've got people who have Down syndrome who's part of the committees and part of the board of this association. Again, reiterating the fact that often the limitations on these people are not put on by their own physical limitations, but rather by us as a community. And I hope that we've created some awareness. Thank you so much, Linda, for joining me today. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you, Landy. Thanks for having us and informing everybody.
Not a problem. Have a wonderful day.